Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here. We're back with our weekly Q&A thing. Getting right into... Oh, sorry. This is season 14, episode 23.
You are getting right into it, yeah.
Getting right into it. I'm skipping the important info. It's not that important. I guess it doesn't really matter to anybody. It matters more to us than anyone else because we kind of just do it for fun.
Yeah.
Seasons that don't mean anything and episode numbers that are... Well, they're not arbitrary. They're based off of the season number, but it's all just sort of made up.
Right. It is.
Yeah.
So what you're watching, because this season is the season of showing what we think are going to be the upcoming challenge characters. What you're seeing in the footage is Kandak Black Adam. And just for people who don't really have a sense of how our sort of workflow is, that each week with our Q&A, totally fresh notes, just a bunch of stuff that we're just blabbering on about. But our weekly recaps, I've got cumulative stuff from the time that we've played to, all the different impressions we've had as a sort of a bigger document. And so I want to say, that's a whole long introduction to say, I think I've realized one thing about this Black Adam skin, but part of me thinks it's so fundamental to who he is that I suspect that maybe I've already realized this, and because I play him so infrequently, that I'm just coming to a brand new realization again and again and again. All right, so the thing that's really great about him is the refractory period is, after each special, is just so short. I mean, Black Adams are fast, no doubt. Basic attacks. But this is his ability to do another special or something, or tag out immediately after completing a special. It's ridiculous. And this is a really sharp contrast to Arkham Killer Croc from a couple weeks ago, who had this moment after specialty where he just stands around and waits. All right, so if you're looking at the right footage, if I can pull it, you'll see a couple of times where he'll knock out the opponent on the last hit of his specials 2 and still tag out fast enough to avoid Rebirth Raven's tag in effect. And why that's ridiculous, and why you can tell it's actually just that he's fast and not that, some characters have a slight animation after. I think Batgirl's one of them, has a slight animation at the end of her special one, which saves her sometimes from the tagging effect. The way you can tell that it isn't an animation or anything at the end of special 2 is that if I'm not actually tagging out, he is still subject to tagging effects like Luchador Bane's tag and stun. And like I said, if I can find the right footage, we'll have that contrast there. But there's a few times where I just think, oh, God, I just got to get him quickly out so that when she steals his power, she's not going to hit him with it. And she doesn't steal his power. And you can see that in the little icons on the left where he's tagged out, that he still has a couple bars of power. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so after either his special 1 or special 2, my problem is a lot of times, I've put in so many hours on this game, I have sort of an instinctual timing for when I want to do something immediately after.
Yeah. And
a lot of times I don't. But in the few times that I do remember to try to do something really fast, it's super ridiculous just how fast he is to start something. And you can see that sometimes when I try to do special 1 over and over and over again, it does it so fast that the opponent doesn't even have a chance to be stopped by the tail end of his special 1. Like a lot of times they have a pause, right? Like that you can sneak in the next one. And I've snuck in the next one so fast that just I'm totally vulnerable. It's wild. It's just weird.
Yeah. Okay. So, you wanted to do a quick follow-up from last week.
Yeah, you know what? We got started talking so much, and there's one thing that I meant to say that felt like it was an important thing that I never remembered. And that is that I think there's a lot of cliches that Americans can believe about the Canadian healthcare system. Mm-hmm. And the irony I wanted to point out is that a lot of them are really things that are problems with the American healthcare system for the great majority of people, unless you have a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So even if you've got insurance, but you don't have a lot of money to sort of bypass that and avoid insurance, you're going to have delays. Mm-hmm. Like those criticisms that aren't actually true about having to wait a long time. And we address this in terms of the triaging, right? But not only do most Americans have to face more expensive healthcare, worse outcomes,
Yeah.
and as much or greater delays in care. It's I guess the bigger point I was trying to make was, it's still amazing to me that either there are so many bad actors that are willing to still spout propaganda, or if these are real people, that they've actually bought into these wild ideas about universal, not necessarily universal healthcare, let's call it single payer healthcare, that just aren't true.
Yeah. Okay. Is that the wrap up of your thoughts?
Yeah, that was it. Because that was the overarching thought that I got too much into the weeds of each individual point that I never really got to the point.
I have a couple things I want to talk about.
Okay.
One thing I want to do is do a media recommendation for anybody who is not already watching it. Pluribus.
Oh, yeah.
I have watched enough that I can really strongly recommend it. I'm not going to spoil anything because I think that even the premise of the show, I think the first episode has the premise evolve in a really natural and interesting and compelling way where you don't really know where it's going.
Yeah.
And then you slowly realize where it's going, sort of just before stuff happens. Like if you're paying attention to the show, there's sort of a funnel towards, you probably know what's about to happen, 2 minutes in the future at any given time, right. In a way it's quite compelling. And I think the show still works if you know the premise. I knew the premise going in, but I think
I did not.
That it would be better to not know it. So I'm going to spoil nothing about the premise. What I'm going to say is it's from Vince Gilligan, which is the Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul guy. And I will say...
And it's got Rhea Seehorn, who is also from Better Call Saul.
And was a standout, just an exceptional aspect of Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
I think she's an exceptional actor. I think that she... what made Better Call Saul great is that there was great cinematography, there was great screenplay, like the scripts were really good, the actors were really good, and the direction was really good. And specifically, the director and the direction in the script trusted the actors enough to make a lot of the emotional beats and storytelling decisions rely on just facial expressions, silence, giving them space to do stuff in a way that if the script or the screenplay or the directing or if any part of it or the actors were not as good, it would not have worked, right?
So I'm going to take an even bigger overview because I don't know enough really about cinematography and whatever, but I will say that not even the script, but to me, it is an interesting conceit. It uses some really interesting concepts. It is a really compelling story.
Yeah.
And it is just very well told. Those kind of, details, that kind of more granular stuff that you're talking about, I don't know some of that.
That's fair.
But
so I'm going to talk about what I like about the show so far without spoiling anything about it, which is that I think what it does a really, really good job of is making the world feel realized. It makes stuff feel real. It makes stuff feel crunchy. It's a very sort of tactile show in the sense that the world feels lived in and accurate. And it's got a really interesting premise that I think a weaker show would focus more on the premise, to focus on sort of reveals and twists in the mystery of it. And I think there still is mystery and twists in the show, right? The plot is still quite good.
Right.
But I find myself really, really absorbed by the character drama. And I think for how cool the premise is, they don't lean on how cool the premise is at all. I think the character drama actually carries the show a lot more. Yeah. And I really, really, really like, and it's something that Vince Gilligan has done across all of his shows. When we talk about Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, some of my favorite moments in those shows are sort of very practical. So this is a minor spoiler for Breaking Bad, but it's a spoiler for really early in the first season. Because, it's Walter White on his journey to become a drug dealer. There's one point where he has to unexpectedly dispose of a body, right? And they make a really, they go really in detail. They look at him buying the barrels, getting the acid, figuring out where to do it, right? It's this really tactile step-by-step process of somebody who is out of his depth broadly speaking. He's really out of his depth in the criminal world, but, you know, he's a high school chemist. So that sort of baseline understanding of, you know, what chemicals use and all that stuff like that is kind of, so it's somebody who's like half competent, and it's somebody who's doing something that's scary and upsetting and out of his depth.
And I guess figuring out, in addition to that, even if he's got the science, when you start stuff from first principles, right? Like you don't know what the process is going to be like until you start doing it, and then you realize the practical steps that are involved. Yeah.
And so there's a lot of his shows that make really great use of that, right? Where they don't have stuff happen off screen. When something is important, that they show it to you, and they show you the characters going through that process, and it makes the world feel really lived in. So there's a lot of stuff, again, not to spoil anything, but there's a lot of stuff where you as an audience are unsure of what's going on in Pluribus, right? And the character also is seeking clarity, right? Is trying to learn about the situation they're in.
Right.
And the process and procedure of learning about the world and figuring stuff out and, you know, trying to achieve her objectives and, you know, succeeding or partially succeeding or almost failing outright. It's all really compellingly written. Yeah. And it's a lot of times the stuff that is happening is moving the plot forward to some extent. You're learning something about the world or the character or what's going on. But it would be almost equally compelling to watch, even if the stuff was happening and she was like exclusively failing to learn about the world, failing to achieve her goals. I think the way that the plot unfolds is sort of drip fed to you, but the scenes and the characterization and the human aspect of the storytelling is really, really compelling so far. And so I like the show a lot for almost everything it's trying to do.
So one of the things that you mentioned about sort of figuring stuff out, one of the things I like about Pluribus is how much opportunity to give me these moments in stories that I like, where you get clues and you figure stuff out and you realize, aha, I love having those aha moments. And all right, so getting back, I mentioned Jo Walton last time, where she's come up with sort of descriptions of things that happen. She calls it incluing. Yeah. Where instead of having to just, you know, have somebody expound at length and, you know, have a big info dump. Yeah. There's stuff that happens where they give you enough to figure stuff out. And if you don't figure it out, it's still a pretty good story. But if you figure out, you think, oh, that's what's happening. And I love, that doesn't have to be all of it, but those are moments that I enjoy because I don't always get them in stories. And it just adds to the fun of what's going on. I think
most of the first episode of Pluribus is them sort of, there's this funnel of understanding where you go from really broad, where you don't know what's going on, but you kind of have this broad sense of direction. And then as you go through, you kind of realize, it's like a Chekhov's gun situation where you realize what they're building to over and over and over again. So there's a bunch of moments where, again, a couple, like 2 minutes before something happens, you go, oh, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. And you realize, you know, oh, that thing that they set up, you know, 5 minutes ago is about to come into play. And again, it's compelling even if you're not thinking about it, even if it's not revealing itself to you. But yeah, you do get it. And there's sort of two ways that I think those reveals can go, where if it's done poorly, you'll be like, oh, this is very predictable. I know exactly what's going to happen. I feel like they're trying to play this off like it's going to be a big thing, but you've made it too obvious. Right. And it feels like poor storytelling. And then there's the version of the writer or the creators of the show are clearly trying to show you something, and they're trying to lead you to a conclusion. And then it just feels really tightly sort of scripted and paced, and you go, oh, that's cool. Yeah. They're showing me. They want me to figure it out, and they've left just enough clues for me to figure it out, where it feels like, not like a puzzle exactly, but there's a sort of satisfying character to it, as opposed to a sort of like disappointing character to it. And it's very much the satisfying kind of like, oh, that's what's about to happen. Oh, that's what's about to happen. So
it's cool. It's neat because when you read a story, there's very much more clearly a perspective that you're, you know, first person, second person, third person, whatever. And it's harder to do that in visual media. It's not impossible, but it's harder. And I feel like what is happening is that with the main character, she doesn't know a lot about what's going on. And they portray it in a way that really makes you feel like you're sort of figuring things out with her. But if you have that little bit of extra knowledge, like, so here's the thing. I feel like one of the things that I find frustrating about stories is when a character can't figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
And they don't know. When they should. Like, you know, they should be smart enough to figure it out. And this is one of those times where, yeah, if you came from that kind of background, not everybody would know what's going on, but there are enough clues there that you get to figure it out without having to think, oh yeah, they should have been smarter. Do you know what I mean? Like that kind of, you get the satisfaction of those moments without having the frustration of the story making a character less insightful, less aware, less whatever than what they should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's zero spoilers. Hopefully you'll, if you haven't heard anything else about the show, you can still go into it and still not really know anything about it.
Yeah.
But really, really compelling. And I think after the first season is finished coming out, we probably will talk about it with spoilers.
Yeah.
So this is your sort of, you've got a few weeks, maybe a couple months. I don't know how many episodes there are supposed to be. You've got a certain amount of time, and then later we're going to come back to it, and we're probably going to talk about it for a little while with lots and lots of spoilers.
Yeah. I will say in general, the idea about, because we were talking about the kind of story that it is, and I find that what's neat, I just realized this, is that one of the reasons why there's such a big collectible market for science fiction and fantasy books is because it's relatively timeless. At one point, I can't remember who did this exercise about looking at the bestsellers list from 50, 60, 70 years ago, and how a lot of those books had just completely disappeared from the collective consciousness. And a lot of them were just not neither read nor desirable. And it's just really a few handful of books. But that in science fiction and fantasy, there's just so many more examples of books that, because they aren't as fixed in time, that are still read and enjoyed as much or more because they're classics, right? Because you've already selected out for the 95% that are not good, like the Sturgeon's Law, where he said like 95% of everything sucks. So things like Hyperion, like Dune. Like, I mean, Dune was, I think, from either the 70s or the 60s.
Yeah.
And they're getting, movies made of it now.
And remade, yeah.
Sure. So I think there's something about those kind of stories. And Pluribus is very much a science fiction story.
Yeah. But it's a contemporary science fiction story. It's set essentially, I think it's supposed to be set in the near future.
Or, it could be now. It could be any time.
Well, I think Vince Gilligan has said that it was meant to be set in the near future, but it's essentially set now, right? It's set
it's close enough
meaningfully contemporaneously. Yeah. But I think the fact that it is modern matters almost not at all, right? Like, I don't think it's going to date itself that significantly.
Right. Really what dates visual media are the stylistic choices and the fashions and whatever. Because what's funny is that sometimes things feel dated because if it's really good, stylistic choices of the film, then people will imitate it.
Yeah.
And then it'll feel old, like everybody's done it. Or that the fashions, the haircuts, whatever. Like when you look at, what's funny? When you look at pictures of people who were like in high school in like 60s, 70s, and 80s, right?
Yeah.
You look at them, a lot of times they look old.
They look older because the people who have the same fashion sense and sensibilities and styles, those same people are now, have
kept them.
Yeah, they've kept them. And so then it's, they have the sensibilities of people who are now 60, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, do you want to get into... I wanted to talk about two other things very quickly.
Okay.
One thing that's annoying is I'm in the market for a new computer this Black Friday.
Okay.
The prices of RAM have just jumped significantly.
So you're talking like, because what is it now, DDR5?
I don't even know. But the important part is that for whatever reason, the RAM market, like prices have like more than doubled.
Right.
And so I was waiting for the Black Friday sale.
Yeah.
And in the time where I was looking at essentially the computers that I wanted, because I was like, I might as well plan now and then just get what I want as soon as, because for a lot of places, they've already released what their Black Friday prices are going to be.
Sure.
And so in the meantime, the prices have jumped by about $100, I think almost exclusively on the back of the increased price of RAM.
Wow.
So after Black Friday deals, I'm still going to be saving money, but I'm going from saving like, $400 to saving like $300 because the price just jumped up by $100.
Right.
Which is unfortunate.
I guess the important thing then is maybe making sure that it's going to be because you're getting a laptop, right?
Yeah.
To make sure that's one where at least the guts are reasonably accessible, so that if the prices drop, you can upgrade at a reasonable price.
Yeah. But the last thing I wanted to talk about a little bit is, have you seen the meeting between Trump and Mamdani?
I haven't seen it. I've read about it.
I've seen a little bit of clips and stuff. I don't know if I have too much interesting to say about it, but I just think it is funny how amicable and specifically how much Trump seems to like Mamdani. With a very limited need for Mamdani to compromise on his beliefs or values.
So, I had this discussion with somebody else, and I wonder if part of it is that if Trump... I've seen credible arguments that Trump isn't necessarily tied into any kind of political... what's the word I'm looking for? Ideology. And that what he appreciates, you listen to his insults, what he appreciates is winner. Mm-hmm. Like everybody that he's insulting that's doing poor or that's working against him is a loser. Mm-hmm. Right? And Mamdani is clearly a winner, coming from relative obscurity and beating a couple of sort of well-established politicians. Yeah. And I think maybe he just appreciates a winner.
Well, before the election, though, the stuff that he was saying, he at least is nominally very anti what Mamdani stands for.
Sure.
And some of the quotes, like, did you see the clip where a reporter asks if Mamdani is willing to stand by his claims that Trump is like a fascist?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't. What happened?
So what happened is a reporter was like, just a few days ago that you said that, Trump is like a fascist or whatever. Do you still stand by your claims? And Mamdani starts speaking about, he goes like, well, I've been clear on my policy. I think we're both clear on our policy. And then Trump just says, it's okay, just say yes, it'll be easier. But like,
oh, that's hilarious. I didn't know that.
And then I think Mamdani quietly goes, oh, then yes, or something like that, right? But somebody is like, oh, you've said that Trump is despotic, and then Trump goes, I've been called worse things than a despot, right?
You're kidding me. Okay, now I need to watch it. I hadn't heard that.
And then also people are questioning him and going, how do you feel about him? And Trump goes, he's changed my minds on some things. Like, I think he'll be a good leader, right? So like the tone of their discussion was clearly very positive when they were being interviewed afterwards, right? Mm-hmm. Trump is like, it's okay, let him call me a fascist. I've been called worse than a despot. He seems like he's going to be a good leader. Like, he's very positive on Mamdani, and he is also not forcing him when they're in that room, right? And the reporters are sort of trying to goad them into speaking maximally negatively about each other. Trump seems very willing to, like, not compromise on his position, but be amicable with Mamdani without forcing him to back off with his criticism.
So be conciliatory. And maybe, again, that to me is a huge contrast to when Zelensky was there.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because Mamdani has been so successful and that Mamdani is working from a position of strength right now.
Yeah. Because basically, when I was looking at and listening to clips of what Mamdani was saying, is he was like, I've been clear where I stand. Trump is clear where he stands. What I appreciate is that he was willing to meet and focus on what is important here, which is, the future of New York, right? That we're both working for the betterment of New Yorkers, right?
Sure.
And so he was, which is a very political, it's a very nice way of saying, how I feel about Trump matters less than what Trump does for me, right?
Yeah.
He acknowledges and understands that he needs to work with Trump,
sure,
without needing to
Antagonize
take back,
him?
well, yeah, without needing to antagonize him, but also without needing to take back what he said about Trump. So that's why I think it's really interesting that Trump seems so amicable and willing to let him not,
conciliatory.
Yeah, but not just conciliatory without forcing Mamdani to back off of anything. He's not. Right. He doesn't seem to be making him kiss the ring. Right. He seems very happy.
And when you say kiss the ring, that's like an allusion to mafia bosses, where all the subordinates need to show allegiance by kissing the ring.
When you look at how he's come after different news organizations, when you look at the lawsuits, when you look at all of this, it seems like he is willing to exercise political power that he should not have in order to force certain types of speech against him to be suppressed, right? And so it is kind of shocking to me that in this case with Mamdani, that he is willing to let him, he says, call me a fascist, call me a despot, and he seems to be in a good mood about it. I know.
I gotta see that. Okay.
That's why I was asking if you'd seen it, because it's shocking, right? And as somebody who is a fan of Mamdani from everything I've seen of him so far, it feels like a huge win. I see that and I go, how does he do it? Right? It just, he feels like he's got this like magnetism to him, which is in service of politics that I agree with. And it's so like, it's awesome to see. It just, it's poetic.
It's hopeful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just, if I couldn't like the guy enough, I just, everything I see of him makes me like him a little more. So I really hope that on the policy that he's solid.
Yeah, right? I hope he doesn't disappoint us.
Yeah.
I mean, it matters not nearly as much as if he were Canadian, but
yeah.
I mean, because that would affect us directly.
I think at the very least it shows that there's an appetite for these sorts of political platforms, which I think is good.
Yeah.
And I hope that, like, ultimately, like, the actions that happen are also good. But yeah, anyways.
Agreed.
We'll do at least one question, right?
I think there's a few that are just sort of grouped together.
Yeah, so we get these every once in a while. We get an increasing amount. I think the lower our views are, and the longer we do this for, the relative ratio of our comments just being variations of this is increasing. So I'll read you the comments. The first one comes from Adman, not from Terraria, and they say, the commitment to this game is insane. Love it. Keep it up, twin. Geoforce Gaming says, day 1000 of being a regular viewer. And then Gucci Skedit 8360 says, holy crap, they still making videos on this game. Last time I watched these guys, I was in high school. Now I'm 26. It might be time to throw in the towel, guys. So it is very funny, because I think we definitely had a time where more people were watching us, more people cared about what
more people
we
were playing the game.
More people were playing the game. And so now we are kind of like a diminished version of what we once were in terms of views, in terms of the game's popularity, in terms of whatever. So
I will argue, though, that instead of being diminished right now, I feel so much more comfortable doing what we're doing now than I ever did when we first started.
Yeah.
Like, there's just certain things. I mean, some stuff you don't see, but it's easier to talk extemporaneously. I feel less beholden to the norms and the expectations of what a channel like this would do.
Yeah, this gets to be exactly what it is, which is a hobby for us.
Yeah.
And, we do it because we enjoy doing it, not because it makes us any real amount of money. There's a time in the middle where it felt like the money and the views and all that stuff was worth really chasing. And that there were opportunities that it would be ridiculous to not try to take advantage of. And now there's no opportunities, so we're doing exactly what we want to do, which is nicer in a lot of ways.
The contrast, I mean, there weren't many months like this, but I think our best ad revenue month, like ever, was about $300.
Yeah.
And right now, I think we're under $20 a month in ad revenue.
Yeah.
So there's that contrast, right? And I guess once you have that perspective and recognize that $300, which is clearly not enough to live on, does not scale up, it was incredibly freeing. And the wild thing to me is, I guess, that one of the wild things is that I'm still enjoying playing the game and that I'm still finding out new things. And yeah, it's still fun.
Yeah.
It's still, and I'm happy to keep on doing this until it stops being fun, whether it's the gameplay part or the making the video part. There's still there's something there. And I don't know whether it's what we bring to the table or whether it's because they did such a good job of making a game that had these nuances, these little variations, these little things, these subtleties that you pick up on if you play it for a long enough time, and with enough, I guess, variables that it's still fun.
You know what I think it is? I think it's a mix of, you know how when I'm going to use an analogy. You know how when you look at arranged marriages versus love marriages, how arranged marriages have a relatively high degree of success, and when you actually look at like outcomes, they have like a relatively like high degree of like spousal happiness, of, like happiness with your spouse, like more so than you'd expect when you think about the way that love marriages are so specific. They involve you really trying to find like your person, right? And I think like would it be fair to say that you love this game, not like in the way that you would love a partner, but like that in terms of like how you feel about a game, right? For what it is.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it.
So I think what it is to my mind anyways is that there are two ways that you can sort of love something, which is the first one is that just from the first moment you see it, right? That you choose, and that it's just good, and it's because it's easy. But I think oftentimes that easiness in love broadly across the board fades, right? And then what is left is sort of you're building the foundation, right? And so I think that one way for you to love a piece of media is for it to just be fun, and for it to stay fun, and to just be good forever, and for there to keep being new stuff for long enough that you like never lose sort of the joy of it, right? That
that spark,
the game keeps it fresh, right? And I think that there have been times with this that you probably wouldn't have continued playing if we didn't have the channel. And because we have the channel, and you're going to put time into it anyways, it never drops sort of below that threshold of you wanting to, the breakup zone, right? Of you not wanting to play to the point where it was worth like not like closing the channel and just stopping making stuff. And because you had a reason to stick with it, that you sort of have developed the foundations for a lasting love of the game, because you're putting the time into it. You put the time and the energy into it, and you found the things to love, right? So I think that's what it is, that it's above a certain degree of quality, and you have an external reason to sort of stick with it and not give up on it when it stops being as much fun.
I'm glad it's an analogy, because it is so much simpler than what a relationship is. So I'll concede that there are definitely reasons why I might have been more ready to appreciate this game and enjoy it longer. But it also, I mean, so here's the thing about arranged relationships, right? Is that you've selected out for people who are willing to be in an arranged marriage. And that is a predisposition to having something successful, I think. When the expectations are there. I think the biggest difference here is that I don't know that there were any expectations going in. When we first started this, not only did we not have any ad revenue or ad income or whatever, it was just something to do. We had really no idea what we were in for. And it was
because we both really liked the game. So I guess my point is that I think this is a nice thought, which is that you can love a lot of things, and it's more about your mindset and what you bring to it and your willingness. I think,
that's what I was thinking.
It's for this game, I think the reason why you love it is because you've been with it for a really long time, and you want to, and you have put the work in to love it, and you are motivated to continue, right?
And it hasn't done anything to disappoint me yet.
And so that you can actually find love for stuff in a lot of different places, and you can make it happen a little bit, right? So that was kind of what I was thinking when I was talking about arranged marriages versus love marriages, which is that I think, you've found this game, you liked it a lot, and you have remained committed to it in a way that has allowed you to develop and nurture your love for it. And I think it says something about the game. It says a sort of minimum amount about the game, but I think it says something about you, and it also says something about the situation and the context surrounding it.
I'll take that.
There we go. Okay. So that does it for this week. Do you want to thank our patrons, or should I?
You go right ahead.
I'll do it. Okay, so I'd like to give a huge thank you to our lovely patrons. If you are a patron and you mostly listen to the Q&A, you do for the recap more often. So we sort of...
should we switch? All right,
Well,
me switch.
we swap back and forth, but we're both thankful.
Let me do that then. I want to give a huge thank you to our patrons on Patreon. That is Michael Devries, Irvin Ruiz, Hoshi127, Nora Klimek, and Miguel, who are supporting us on the credited level.
So there we go. And we'd also like to give a huge thank you to all of you for supporting us however you do. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Komoda.